Well, today, this Saturday on the Sabbath, and welcome to Vegan Bible Essentials. I would like to discuss a chapter here in the Bible in Amos, and it's on chapter 5. And I would like to read that to you, and let's gain some insight into what's going on here and about Israel and about Israel being fallen and such things. So we'll begin in chapter 5 and start reading. Okay. Amos 5. Hear ye this word which I have take up against you, even a lamentation, O house of Israel. The virgin of Israel is fallen. She shall no more rise. She is forsaken. Upon her land there is none to raise her up. For thus saith the Lord God, the city that went out by 1,000 shall leave 100, and that which went forth by 100 shall leave 10 to the house of Israel. For thus saith the Lord unto the house of Israel, Seek ye me, and you shall live. But seek not Bethel, nor enter into Gilgal, and pass not to Beersheba, for Gilgal shall surely go into captivity, and Bethel shall come to naught. Seek the Lord, and ye shall live, lest he break out like fire in the house of Joseph, and devour it, and there be none to quench it in Bethel. Ye who turn judgment to wormwood, and leave off righteousness in the earth, seek him that maketh the 7 stars and Orion, and turneth the shadow of death into the morning, and maketh the day dark with night, that calleth for the waters of the sea, and poureth them out upon the face of the earth. The Lord is his name. That strengtheneth the spoiled against the strong, so that the spoiled shall come against the fortress. They hate him that rebuketh in the gate, and they abhor him that speaketh uprightly. Forasmuch therefore as your treading is upon the poor, and you take from him burdens of wheat, ye have built houses of hewn stone, but ye shall not dwell in them. Ye have planted pleasant vineyards, but ye shall not drink wine of them. Here is talking about the wheat and the vineyards and such things. You don't see no mention of meat here, or eating meat. It's mostly wheat and wine in the vineyards and such things as that. Okay, we'll continue on this number 12 here. For I know your manifold transgressions and your mighty sins. They afflict the just. They take a bribe, and they turn aside the poor in the gate from their rights. Therefore the prudent shall keep silence in that time, for it is an evil time. Seek good and not evil, that ye may live. And so the Lord, the God of hosts, shall be with you as ye have spoken. Hate the evil and love the good, and establish judgment in the gate. It may be that the Lord God of hosts will be gracious unto the remnant of Joseph. Therefore the Lord, the God of hosts, the Lord saith thus, Wailing shall be in all streets, and they shall say in all the highways, Alas, alas. And they shall call the husbandmen to mourning, and such as are skillful of lamentation, to wailing. And in all vineyards shall be wailing, and for I will pass through thee, saith the Lord. Woe unto you that desire the day of the Lord, to what end is it for you? The day of the Lord is darkness and not light. As if a man did flee from a lion, and a bear met him, or went into the house and leaned his hand on the wall, and a serpent bit him. Shall not the day of the Lord be darkness and not light, even very dark and no brightness in it? I despise your feast days, and I will not smell in your solemn assemblies. Though you offer me burnt offerings and your meat offerings. Listen very carefully, okay? All right, this is a very good thing here that kind of offers insight into what God likes and what he doesn't like. Let me read it over. in verse 22. Though you offer me burnt offerings and your meat offerings, I will not accept them. Neither will I regard the peace offerings of your fat beast. Take thou away from me the noise of thy songs, for I will not hear the melody of thy viols. But let judgment run down as waters, and righteousness as a mighty stream. Have ye offered unto me sacrifices and offerings in the wilderness 40 years? Let me say something about that right now. No, the Lord fed the people in the wilderness for those 40 years. And he fed them manna. Is that correct? Yes. O house of Jacob. Let me read that one more time. Have you offered unto me sacrifices and offering in the wilderness 40 years, O house of Israel? So they didn't have to. I mean, they were. Well, let me read on, and we'll have a clear understanding of that. But you have borne the tabernacle of your Moloch and Chian, your images, the star of your God which you made to yourselves. Now these are false gods he is talking about. Therefore will I cause you to go into captivity beyond Damascus, saith the Lord, whose name is the God of hosts. Okay, that's the end of chapter 5. But what's most important in this is reading the verse 22, where God wouldn't accept burnt offerings and meat offerings here. And he says he won't accept them. Well, and he won't regard the peace offerings either. So, does God need burnt sacrifices? Does God need these type of things, meat offerings and such things? No. And this tells you right here, when I read this, God doesn't need these type of things. And as far as sacrifices and offerings in the wilderness go, no. Where was all these sacrifices and offerings? Where were they first learned by the children of Israel? Well, I'm going to give you some insight into this. They went into captivity of Egypt, the Egyptian pharaohs and all. They captured the Israelite people, and they brought them into captivity. And when they brought them into captivity, the Egyptians were already sacrificing and such things, using these type of things with their false gods. So that's, when they lived as long as they did with the Egyptian people among them and everything, naturally they would have picked up their ways and customs and such things, and it would have been indoctrinated into their minds for such years and years and years being in captivity like that, and more Israelite people being born. They were born into that type of thing, and it was just kind of learned behavior that they were picking up, that the sacrificing to these false gods and false idols and such things. So therefore, yes, they were doing the meat sacrifice, taking animals and doing that and offering up to some false god, like this one here, Moloch and Chian, your images, it says in verse 26. So therefore, we got an idea here that this is what they were doing at some point in time. So what do we really need to keep in mind? We need to, what is most appropriate as a sacrifice, as an offering unto God? Offer up ourselves, our heart, our mind to God. That's what we need to be offering up, and not all these other things and such things as that. So I would like to sorry, I'm stumbling over my own words today, and I'm sorry about that. We need to keep in mind that God doesn't need these meat offerings and such things as that. But anyway, it was done into the Bible, And I think, to be honest with you, I think God went along with it since the people were so indoctrinated with it and they had to have meat and all. It wasn't in the beginning before Noah. There was no such thing as eating meat, flesh. And even in the Bible, it talks about the flesh pots of Egypt and such things, and that's exactly what happened in the captivity of Israel. They were having these flesh pots and all going on in Egypt, so we need to keep that in mind. And Israel was doing badly. They needed to seek God. They needed to find God in their heart, and they weren't doing it. They were going in the opposite direction. They were in the high places. They were worshiping in false idols and such things, and there was such bad things as the people offering up their own children to these false gods, thinking it would appease the false gods and offer them some type of favor, like rain on their crops or such things. So let's keep this in mind as we study sometimes these words of the Bible and how God is giving this to us and helping us to understand these things. And anyway, we keep on with the Bible. We know that even after the Messiah was sacrificed once and for all people, that there was no more need for sacrificing. And no more of the old laws. In Paul's writing, there was no more need for the Moses old laws and stuff in the Bible, the circumcision and such things. There was no need for such things. So, and anyway, the new and God, and certainly didn't need no animal sacrifices, and we need to keep that in mind. Okay. Thank you for listening to me, even though I did kind of messing up today, and I'm sorry for that. But anyway, hope you have a blessed day, and thank you, and bye-bye.